In the early dawn of September 9th, 1942, the quiet forest near Brookings, Oregon, trembled under a frightening new sound. An aircraft engine where no aircraft should be. Above the towering Douglas firs, a small Yokosuka E14Y1 Glen reconnaissance floatplane, launched from a secret Japanese submarine, cut through the mist. Its mission, do what no enemy had done since 1812, bomb the United States mainland. On board, Warrant Officer Nobuo Fujita carried a 76 kilograms incendiary bomb designed to ignite devastating wildfires and crush American morale. His pilot, Petty Officer Shoji Okuda, whispered through clenched teeth, "For the Empire, we strike first." Below, unaware U.S. forestry workers would soon become the front line of a new kind of war. This was not just sabotage. This was Japan's bold attempt to bring World War II onto American soil. The Imperial Japanese Navy submarine I-25, commanded by Lieutenant Commander Meiji Tegami, sat just below the surface 35 kilometers from the Oregon shoreline. Its steel hull, 113 meters long, armed with Type 95 torpedoes and a 140 millimeters deck gun, was packed with a crew that had trained relentlessly for this single audacious act. Inside the cramped hangar compartment, Nobuo Fujita checked the E14Y1 Glen one last time. The aircraft, a lightweight reconnaissance floatplane, carried a single 76 kilograms and M76 incendiary bomb filled with thermite and barium nitrate, meant to spark massive forest fires across the Pacific Northwest. "Fuel check," Fujita asked. Shoji Okuda tapped the gauge. "Enough to hit land and return. If the Americans don't see us first." Tegami approached them, stoic. "Strike fast. Strike unseen. The Emperor is with you." The submarine surfaced in the pre-dawn haze. Crewmen scrambled on deck, unfolding the aircraft's wings and spinning its propeller by hand. The catapult roared, and the Glen leapt into the cold air. Fujita felt the engine vibrate beneath his gloves. He pulled out a photo in his coat, a family portrait with his infant daughter, Aya. He blinked hard. Father must return as a hero, he thought. Below, the Pacific coastline emerged, lush, untouched, vulnerable. The two men scanned the landscape for any sign of anti-aircraft defenses. None. The U.S. mainland felt distant from the war, relaxed, unprepared. Okuda pointed. There. Perfect target. A vast expanse of forest, dry from late summer heat. Fujita armed the bomb. He steadied his breath. For those lost at midway, may this ignite fear. The bomb released, vanishing into the trees. Seconds later, a flash. A plume of smoke. The first Axis bomb ever dropped on the continental United States. But then, something unexpected. A crosswind slammed the Glen, tossing the plane violently. The coastline disappeared into a thick curtain of fog rolling in from the sea, dense, disorienting. Okuda cursed. Visibility 0. We'll never find. The submarine. Radio silence. Fuel ticking down. A fire beginning behind them. And an entire nation about to awaken. Lost above enemy territory, Fujita must choose, circle and risk capture, or try to land in the cold Pacific and pray I-25 finds him first. The Glen rattled as turbulence slammed its fragile frame. Fujita gripped the controls, fighting to keep the reconnaissance plane level. Okuda scanned the fog-shrouded ocean below, knuckles white around his map case. Their bomb had detonated successfully. Smoke rose somewhere behind them, but now they were blind, the coastline erased by a rolling wall of mist. Fuel was dropping faster than expected. Fujita, if we can't locate I-25 within 10 minutes, the ocean will decide our fate, Okuda warned. Fujita's mind raced through navigation drills. Based on timing and bearing, the submarine should be holding position southwest of Cape Blanco. But any miscalculation meant ditching in. Freezing waters where hypothermia killed within minutes. He steadied his voice. We climb above the fog, gain sight of the sun. Okuda nodded. A risky move. If radar picks us up, they have no idea we're here. Fujita cut him off. The Glen rose, engine straining. As they broke through the top of the fog layer, a sharp beam of sunlight pierced the cockpit. Fujita exhaled. There, west, the faint glimmer of something metallic on the water's surface. Okuda, bearing 270. But the relief was short-lived. The glimmer shifted, moved, too fast to be the submarine. Okuda's eyes widened. Aircraft. American. A U.S. Coast Guard patrol plane, likely a Lockheed Vega, soared out of the cloud bank. Its pilot had spotted them. The American aircraft banked hard, quickly cutting distance. The Glen wasn't built for combat. No armor plating, no self-sealing fuel tanks, no defensive guns. Just speed and hope. Okuda shouted over the engine's roar. He's signaling. He wants us to land. That's not happening, Fujita growled. He dove straight back into the fog, pulling high G turns that pressed Okuda into his seat. Moisture blasted across the canopy. The floatplane skimmed just above the waves, seconds from impact. The American pilot followed, but the fog favored the Japanese plane, smaller, more agile. Fujita zigzagged through the mist, heart hammering. Finally, he glimpsed the silhouette of I-25 deck crew already waving signal flags. Tegami kept position. Okuda yelled, relief cracking his voice. But survival was not yet guaranteed. The sub's crane needed time to hoist the Glen aboard, and the Vega was circling above, searching for them like a hawk sensing its prey. Okuda's headset crackled with static. We must hurry before he calls in reinforcements. Fujita leveled the plane alongside the submarine. Salt spray engulfed the cockpit as the Glen splashed down hard, bouncing dangerously. Before settling, crewmen rushed to secure the aircraft. Above them, the sound of circling engines grew louder. As the Glen is hoisted from the water, the American patrol plane suddenly dives, preparing a strafing run on both the floatplane and the surface submarine. The deck of I-25 shook as waves slammed against its hull. Crewmen yelled orders, rushing to secure the E14Y1 floatplane to the crane hook. Fujita and Okuda jumped from the cockpit, boots slipping on wet steel. Above them, the distant engine of the U.S. Coast Guard Lockheed Vega grew louder, diving fast. Lieutenant Commander Tegami raised binoculars. He's lining up a strafing run. The sub was exposed, decks flooded, hangar hatch open, floatplane still unsecured. If they submerged now, Fujita and Okuda would be dragged down with the aircraft. Hard to port. Tegami barked. Prepare the deck gun. The 140mm Type 11 deck gun crew scrambled into position. Ammunition handlers shoved shells into the breach. The Vega swooped lower, sun glinting off its wings. Okuda froze, staring up. He's coming right at us. Tracer rounds stitched the water, walking toward the submarine. Tegami slammed a fist on the railing. Return fire. The first shell roared skyward, missing. The aircraft pulled up, banking to set up for a second attack. Fujita clenched his jaw. Commander, we must cut the cables and ditch the plane. Tegami hesitated. Losing the aircraft meant losing their mission's future. But losing the submarine meant losing the war. Cut it loose, he shouted. Metal clanged as the crane cable was severed. The Glen, their proud floatplane, slid into the ocean, bubbling before vanishing beneath the waves. The deck gun fired again, this time striking close. Enough to make the Vega shudder in turbulence. The American pilot broke off his attack, circling wide to reassess. Tegami seized the opportunity. Dive. Dive now. Emergency dive. Klaxons wailed. Men flooded down the hatches. Fujita and Okuda dropped inside, drenched and shivering. The hull groaned as seawater rushed over the bow. Depth gauge needles spun downward 20 meters, 30, 40. Inside, breathless silence. Condensation dripped from pipes overhead. Every man listened for the sound of depth charges. Okuda exhaled shakily. We escaped for now. Fujita sat with his back against the cold steel, hands trembling. The weight of losing the plane, his purpose, hit him like a blow. He whispered, barely audible, if Aya could see me now, would she still think I'm a hero? But the war had no room for self-doubt, and the Americans were not done searching. Hydrophones picked up a new sound ship, propellers, multiple sources, closing fast. A hunter-killer group was sweeping the area. Tegami leaned over the chart table, calculating desperately. We must slip beneath them. Silent running, he muttered. If they detect us, we are finished. Depth charges splash above. Seconds later, the ocean explodes, and the submarine is rocked violently as the lights flicker and a seam along the forward bulkhead begins to crack open. The first depth charge detonated off the port side, a massive underwater shockwave slamming into I-25 like the fist of a giant. Bulkheads groaned. Overhead lights flickered to a dim orange emergency glow. The air filled with dust and a metallic tang of fear. "Hold fast," Lieutenant Commander Tegami shouted, gripping a railing as the submarine lurched. The sonar operator, Seaman Sato, wiped sweat from his brow. "3, no, for ships above us. They are triangulating our position." Another explosion, closer. Pipes rattled. Violently. A rivet popped loose, zinging past Petty Officer Okuda's ear. Fujita steadied himself near the battery compartment. His fingers traced the photo of his family, folded inside his tunic. "If this hull gives in, I drown nameless in the dark." Tegami surveyed the control room. The diesel engines were dead, replaced by the soft electric hum of batteries. Every sound mattered now. Silent running, he whispered. "All ahead slow." The helmsman nodded, adjusting to the quietest crawl possible. Even a dropped wrench could reveal their location. Sato whispered urgently. Enemy destroyer turning, preparing another attack run. Above them, propellers accelerated. The sea roiled. Boom! A third depth charge shook the submarine so violently that welded seams split, spraying cold seawater onto the deck. Crewmen rushed to patch the leak with wrenches and a collision mat. "Commander," Engineer Mori shouted. "If the battery compartment floods, chlorine gas will form." Tegami clenched his teeth. The choice was hellish. Dive deeper into crushing pressure. Surface and face enemy guns. Stay here and suffocate or implode. We take the trench. Tegami barked. A narrow underwater ravine, mapped days earlier, was their only lifeline, too tight for destroyers to risk dropping charges deep into. Helm, bearing 185. Down angle, 5 degrees. As the submarine slipped deeper, the creaking intensified. Men exchanged anxious glances. Some muttered prayers, others gripped Lucky Charms. Okuda leaned toward Fujita. "We should have died in the plane. Faster than this." Fujita forced a trembling exhale. "No. If we survive, we return home." Suddenly, silence. No more propellers. No more charges. Only the crushing quiet of the abyss. Sato's eyes widened. "They've lost us." Tegami nodded but didn't relax. "Do not celebrate yet. They may wait above." Minutes passed. Then, ping, a sonar pulse. Then another. "American sonar has reacquired us." Sato yelled. Tegami punched the bulkhead, voice rising with raw desperation. "They're coming for the kill. Prepare for impact." Crew braced. Breath held. Above, multiple splashes. The final barrage. A depth charge detonates directly above the bow. The forward torpedo room goes silent, and the pressure gauge needles spin wildly into the red. The ocean roared like thunder as the depth charge exploded just meters above the bow. The floor heaved violently. Men thrown against bulkheads and consoles. A wrench clattered across the deck, sparking as it hit steel. In the forward torpedo compartment, no response. Tegami grabbed the voice tube. "Torpedo room. Status report." Only static. Then a faint banging, 3 short knocks. Okuda's face paled. Survivors trapped. Water surged into the bow, rushing through a crack like a living beast. Pressure hissed. Metal shrieked. The main hatch sealed automatically, isolating the flooding, but also sealing the men inside. Engineer Mori rushed to Tegami. "At this rate of intake, we lose buoyancy in 10 minutes. We either surface or we sink to crush depth." Surface, where American destroyers would tear them apart. Sink, where the ocean would finish the job. The captain's jaw tightened. We fight to live. We surface. Fujita, chest tight, stared at the deck plate beneath his boots. Commander, they'll be waiting. Tegami met his eyes, tired, fierce. Better to die fighting than drowning in silence. The order echoed. Blow ballast tanks. Prepare to surface. Compressed air roared through the pipes. The submarine began to rise, slowly. But Sato jolted upright at the hydrophone station. Commander, enemy ships turning away. Tegami blinked. Away? That makes no sense. Sato strained to listen. Sir, they're accelerating. Leaving the area. Tegami's eyes widened as realization struck. They think we're dead. A lifeline, but a fragile one. He canceled the surface command. All stop. Maintain depth. Silent running. The sub stabilized, but the forward compartment creaked under relentless pressure. The trapped sailors were running out of air. Quick decisions were now the enemy. Mori whispered, if we don't surface soon, those men die down there. Tegami stared at the bulkhead, listening to the muffled, desperate pounding from the other side. Lives he knew, names he knew. Fujita's voice broke the silence. We must choose the mission or the men. The captain's hand hovered over the dive controls. The submarine trembled, like it shared his conflict. Minutes passed. Too long. Suddenly, through the hull, they heard a new sound. A distant rhythmic thrum. Not destroyers. Aircraft. Multiple engines. Approaching fast. Okuda's breath hitched. The Americans are sending bombers to finish the job from the sky. Tegami whispered, almost to himself. If we surface, we are dead. If we stay, they are dead. He looked at Fujita and Okuda, eyes hollow with fear. We will rescue the torpedo room. Just as damage control crews begin breaking the hatch seals, the collapse alarm screams. The ravine floor below them suddenly shifts, threatening to drag 25 deeper and crush all hands. The undersea ravine shifted, grinding against the submarine's hull like the jaws of a trapped beast. Deck plates buckled. A siren wailed, crushed depth warning. Lieutenant Commander Tegami seized the intercom. Damage control. Force the hatch open now. Sailors swung hammers and turned wrenches against the sealed bulkhead. The metal groaned under pressure, resisting them as if the sea itself wanted those men entombed. Fujita pressed his palm to the cold steel. He could feel fists pounding back, weak, frantic. Hold on, just hold on. Commander, Engineer Mori shouted, voice cracking. Pressure rising. 50 meters more and the hull will fail. Tegami's eyes darted between two nightmares. Break the hatch. Risk a flood that would drown everyone. Leave it shut. Condemn the trapped men to suffocation. The captain's shoulders trembled under the weight of command. Blow ballast. Partial, he ordered. We rise just enough to relieve pressure. Keep her steady. Air surged through the tanks. The submarine strained upward, shuddering with each meter gained. Rivets squealed but held. Inside the torpedo room, a distorted voice echoed through the metal. Captain! A final wrench turn. A hiss of released air, then they forced the hatch wide. Two sailors stumbled out, faces pale, coughing seawater. But a third lay motionless inside, pinned under debris. Fujita rushed in. I've got him. He heaved with everything he had, veins burning. The debris finally shifted, and the sailor gasped for air. Then, ping, ping, ping. Sonar flared to life again. Sato shouted from the hydrophone station. Multiple signatures returning. American destroyers. Tegami didn't hesitate this time. All compartments sealed. Dive hard, eastward. The submarine plunged deeper, away from the ravine, away from the sweeping searchlights now streaking the water above. Silence returned, broken only by labored breathing and clinking tools. The cost was incalculable. The aircraft was gone, their mission compromised, and every man now carried a piece of the dead. Hours later, after escaping into the vast Pacific, Fujita sat alone with his thoughts. He unfolded the soaked photograph of his daughter, Aya, edges frayed, ink fading. Okuda quietly approached. "We struck America, Fujita. We brought the war to their shores. The Empire will honor us." Fujita didn't smile. He stared into the endless dark ocean ahead. "Honor," he whispered. "All I want is to go home. Alive." Tegami entered, solemn. We set course west. This chapter ends here, but history will remember what we did today. Above them, the coastline faded into mist, scarred by a single incendiary explosion that would grow into a legend far greater than the damage it caused.